First off, just I'd like to introduce myself and our four candidates here tonight. My name is Michelle Saran. I'm the Executive Director with the Board of Tourism, Trade and Commerce, and I'll be the moderator for tonight's for the evening. To my far left is Alan Arthur, the NDP candidate. To my immediate left, Bob Gapcock, the Green Party candidate. To my immediate right, Gerald Borman of the Liberal Party. And to my far right, Ed Kamarnicki, our Conservative candidate. The agenda tonight, basically, we will have each candidate open with a opening statement, a position statement, and then following that, we will ask each candidate a question. We'll give them 2 minutes to answer those questions, and following that, each candidate will be allowed a 1-minute rebuttal. We'll take a small break after that, a short break, and then we'll follow that up with opening up for questions from the floor. Our first candidate to provide a position statement for you is Mr. Alan Arthur.
Good evening, folks. How's everyone doing? Can you hear me all right? Yeah. Is the microphone on? Good. I don't know if it matters. I'm pretty loud anyways. My name is Alan Arthur. I'm 32 years old. I'm getting married in 3 days, 4 days, something like that. I think I lost count now that the days getting closer. It's sort of getting a little discombobulated as far as the days go. I don't know if I'm doing that on purpose or what, but Saturday is the big day, 4 o'clock. So as long as I'm there by 4, she said, fiance said it was okay if I did this sort of thing. I was mayor of the town of Qu'Appelle in 2006 at the ripe old age of 27. Now I'm moving on to the federal politics. Let me just say quickly that when I was mayor of Qu'Appelle, I did things with a people first initiative, and it worked very well for the 3 years I was mayor. We did a lot of new things, a lot of fresh things. I was told it was an old man's game, what am I doing there? But you know what, I ran anyways. I worked hard for the month, and I won against 3 other opponents, and it was very valuable and perhaps the most cherished thing I've done so far in my young life, until I get married, and then my young life will probably turn quickly old life. So I just got 4 things to say here, just to get it out there. 4 things nice and short for you folks. Reason you vote for me, my position is Ottawa's broken, it needs to be fixed. It will be fixed by Jack Layton. People say that we're not one of the experience, but a third of the candidates do have a municipal background, so we're just not a bunch of newbies. We're looking for change, no more of the status quo. You want a leader you can trust in there, and Jack Layton is a leader you can trust most definitely. And another slogan we like to use is together we can do this, as far as healthcare, jobs, the economy. If we all pitch in, if we all work together, then we can solve all of these problems in rational, pragmatic ways. Number 4, you know where Jack stands. Even though he's got a crack tip and a cane, you can always find out where he stands. He's a fighter, he fights for you, and he inspires me. When I'm tired, at the end of the day, just slogging away, I'm a little pooped, maybe want to have a nap. I think of Jack and his fractured hip. I say again because he's got a fractured hip. You guys know he had a fractured hip? And he's still giving out there, giving her, and he's working hard for Canadians, working hard for Canadian families, and that's what I'm doing for you. That's my main goal. I'm not doing it for any other reason but to better the lives of Canadians and Canadian families. Thank you.
Yes, so I did forget to mention one thing here. Kevin here has, he'll be keeping track of the time that you're speaking for. He's got a 1 minute and 20-second warning signals, I guess, for you. So just keep an eye. He'll be flashing those up for you when that time comes available. Our next position statement will be coming from Ed Kamarnicki.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for coming out for this debate. And I trust, Alan, you voted in the advance polls. If your wedding's on Saturday, you might not make it for the second there, but we wish you well. You got to look after that young bride for sure. We, as a government, had put together a budget that contained a number of things that were, I think, helpful for our communities, for our families. We just came through a recession where we spend a lot of dollars, and we thought now would be a time for restraint, except for some very specific spending areas. And in the budget that we introduced, we had a volunteer firefighters tax credit for $3,000. We had a caregiver tax credit for $2,000. We extended the Eco Energy Retrofit Homes program. We topped up the guaranteed income supplement for seniors between $600 and $700 a year extra, $1,000 hiring credit for small businesses to help them out with any EI dollars they would have to pay if they had new hires. We put in a special program for attracting doctors to rural areas. We said if you were a student that had incurred a student loan and practiced in a rural area, we would reduce your indebtedness by $40,000 if you served there for a certain length of time. For nurses, it was $20,000 that we would forgive. And there was a number of other things in the budget that I think were useful things. There was nothing in the budget that would have provoked any of the parties to call an election. It's quite interesting that we are in an election, and I would say some of the items that we put in our budget, in our platform, are items that are both the NDP and Liberal platform. So you have to wonder, why are we in the fourth election in less than 7 years at a significant cost? And I think that when you looked at where the parties were in the polls, the Liberals were down in the polls, the NDP were down in the polls. What was the reasoning for prompting an election? Excepting they were of the view they didn't have to win to form government. Last time around, before the ink was even dry from the election, they had penned a deal where there would be a coalition between the Bloc, the NDP, and the Liberal Party. And I think they have the same thing in mind this time. That's why we're saying that we need a majority Conservative government, or else we'll have something else. Now, I hate to quote Jeffrey Simpson, but he said, you know, both the Liberal and NDP leaders have quoted significant spending amounts. He said party leaders are making wild promises without the foggiest idea where the money will come from. They're in this to try and form some kind of arrangement. We need to stop it. We need to send a strong message and vote for a strong Conservative majority government. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Bob Dupek. I'm the Green Party candidate for Souris Moose Mountain here. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming out tonight. I know it is a beautiful evening out there, and I know that there are two important hockey games going on, and I'm surprised that there are this many people out tonight. It shows that you are concerned about our electoral system, and that you're concerned about what's been going on so far in government. Luckily for me, I made it down Highway 18 today. It's a bit of a minefield, and I'm here to give you a little bit of information on the Green Party platform. A little bit about me, myself first. I'm a father of two girls. My wife and I live in Brokenville, up in the northeast corner of Souris Moose Mountain, and I work at the local potash mine as a laboratory technician. I spent my whole life in environmental sciences and working to understand what's going on with different things like Dutch elm disease, with avian botulism, and now I'm working in an industry that's very important to Saskatchewan, the potash industry, very much like the oil and gas industry. So I'd like everybody to pay close attention tonight. The candidates up here will do several things. They'll tell you what the other party is going to cost you. They're going to tell you how they're going to spend your money. And you need to listen carefully to whether you hear fear or do you hear hope. The parties, your elected officials, should be up here delivering hope for the people of Canada, hope for a better future, hope for a better economy. Do they deliver that up here? Do your candidates, the person you vote for, Are they giving you the information you need to feel better about our future? The Green Party has a fully developed platform that's been run through the Parliamentary Budget Officer. This sits on our website all year long. It's not dreamed up right at election time. It's not promised at the last minute, shoveling your own money at you. The Green Party has a fully costed platform that takes care of the economy, the environment, people's health, and the well-being of all Canadians. At this time, please get out and vote. Encourage your friends to get out and vote, because every vote is a voice for change. A change for the government that we've had and the trouble that we've had for the last 4 elections. So please, get out and vote, get your friends out and vote, and encourage everybody to stand up and make sure that we get government working. That's the most important thing right now, to get back to work, and enough of this squabbling that we've had amongst the large parties. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Gerald Borrellman, and I'm a Liberal candidate in Souris Moose Mountain. I grew up on a farm south of Weyburn, the family farm, and I attended grades 1 through 12 at Goodwater High School. Later I went to the University of Saskatchewan, where I obtained a political science degree. Subsequent to that, I spent time in the legislature. I was a researcher and speechwriter for Linda Haverstock in her time in the legislature, and later went on to be a constituent worker for Bernie Collins and your former mayor. So my involvement in politics in Souris Moose Mountain has been both long and deep. The reason we're gathered here tonight is not, as some of you may have been led to believe, about the budget, but rather it is about how we are governed and our democratic form of government under a constitutional monarchy. The basis of why we are here is about change of government. And as one of my campaign workers told me the other day, not so flippantly, he said, you know, politicians are like diapers. And he kind of caught my attention. What's this about? He said, politicians need to be changed regularly like diapers. And for the same reason. And so I reiterate, we're here to talk about change. And it's about the contempt of the Harper government for the House of Commons and for the people of Canada, and their refusal to reveal budgetary numbers about the cost of 3 items. And those major items in the budget are the F-35 stealth fighter built by Lockheed Martin, the amount of the corporate tax cuts they plan to put in place, and the value of the mega jail deals that they have. That is the reason we are here, is the contempt for the Canadian parliamentary system. For the very first time in the history of the British parliamentary model, a Prime Minister and his government has been held in contempt. That is the reason we are here, and we are discussing a change of government. A change of government because of the contempt for you, the Canadian people, and the Canadian taxpayer, and how that money is spent. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Each of the 4 candidates has submitted a question to us to pose to them. After that, we will open up the floor to the guests here to ask questions if they so choose. Our first question goes to Gerald Borrellman. We'll be going in reverse order here. Asking you to speak regarding the current deficit and how that deficit is affecting Canadians.
The current economic situation in Ottawa is unique, to say the least. For the first time, we have a Prime Minister who is the largest spending Prime Minister in the history of the country. When the Liberals left power, there was a $13 billion surplus in the coffers. Government, we are now over $50 billion in debt. We have a party that discusses low taxes. How can you have low taxes when you and I all owe a portion of that $50 billion plus? That's money that needs to be repaid to the sources that it was borrowed from. The idea of low taxes is just not there. The Liberal Party has 3 pillars that will allow us to move forward through government. And I want to reiterate these perhaps a second time later in the evening. Deficit reduction. The deficit needs to be reduced under a Liberal government from 3.5% in about 2 years down to 1% of the gross domestic product. The second factor would be competitive and affordable tax rates. And finally, spending discipline. A Liberal government would conduct an overall evaluation of all government spending and eliminate any wasteful spending that may be in the process. After 2008, middle-income Canadian families are deeply in debt. For every dollar they bring in, they owe $1.50. So the Liberal government will attempt, through policies we'll discuss a little later in the evening, to put the ground under the feet of Canadian middle-income class earners.
Thank you. To Mr. Bob Devcock. The Green Party has been called a one-issue party with only concern for the environment. How do you address the concerns of the people that the Green Party environmental policies will hurt the economy in the Southeast and in SVN?
That question seems to be on everybody's mind, is how can we keep this economy booming that we have down here in the Southeast? The question really is where is the money going? Now, I said I drove Highway 18 in here. Obviously, the money is not going into making our roads better, because that was a minefield. But all the oil companies right now, all the developers of our resources, including the potash companies, have enormous subsidies that go their way. The subsidies to the oil companies in Canada amount to $1.4 billion a year. And these companies, the richest companies on earth, are being paid by our government to extract the resources that belong to us. Now, resource use and resource development will never slow down. Southeast Saskatchewan will be booming for years to come. The question is what is the true cost? The people of the Southeast not only will pay for rougher roads, but we'll also pay with some environmental consequences. So we need to make sure that as people of Saskatchewan, people of Canada, we need to make sure that our resources are extracted in a responsible manner and that the benefits of those resources are there for generations to come. Stronger environmental policy is a part of every party's platform, and it should be first on Canadians' minds when it comes to our booming economy. We want to make sure that the Green Party takes that extra money that's been thrown towards large companies and provides for Canadians in tax breaks for married couples, tax breaks for low-income earners, and tax breaks for companies who work hard to improve their environmental efficiency. So all that money that's being thrown to energy companies needs to go back to making our place better. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question is for Mr. Ed Kamarnicki. Was the economic action taken during the recession necessary, and did it meet its objectives?
Well, I'm firmly of the view that there's a time to spend and there's a time of restraint. During the course of the recession, it was a world recession, not just in Canada. A time was there for us to take action. In fact, if we had the opposition would perhaps have spent more, but we wouldn't have seen it directed in the fashion that we did. So we devised a program to ensure that infrastructure could be built right across the country. Prior to the recession, we paid down $37 billion worth of debt. We reduced taxes on business and families. We reduced taxes for an average family of 4 by $3,000, $3,000 more in their pocket. We increased transfer payments to record levels to support the healthcare and education, something that the Liberals did differently. They tried to balance their books on the backs of ordinary Canadians and seniors. They reduced transfers to the provinces by $25 billion to balance the books. We didn't do that. We went into deficit. They also took $50 billion from the EI fund. We didn't do that. We put in a law that you can only use EI premiums for EI purposes. But what we did spend, we spent in a reasoned way across the whole country. It affected this riding in a significant way as well. We made sure that those that needed water or sewer upgrades or highways or bridges, in some cases event centers we have here, knowledge infrastructure centers, the Estimate Energy Training Center, for instance, Highway 39 bypass, those are all the results of money we spent. And that money we spent provided jobs, and it'll be there for 25 years down the road, and it'll be serving our young people. In the meantime, businesses will pick up, and as business is picking up, it's not the time to spend more as a government. It's time to restrain spending and let business take over to create jobs.
Thank you. Final question from Mr. Ron Arthur. Canadian healthcare is at a pivotal point in its history. What are your party's plans for the future of healthcare?
We are at a crossroads in Canadian history. There are two visions for Canada that are being presented in this election. The future of the Canadian healthcare system is a major focus in both of them. On one side, we have people like Stephen Harper who state, our healthcare will continue to deteriorate unless Ottawa overhauls the Canada Health Act to allow the provinces to experiment with market reforms and private healthcare delivery options. Now you can go online and there's far more like quotations, just like this one, where he's talking about private healthcare. They made it very clear, the Conservatives, where they stand and how committed they are to continuing the universal Canadian healthcare system. On the other side, we have the New Democratic Party, who is committed to working with Canada's provinces and territories to strengthen our healthcare system. We are committed to guaranteeing continued federal support for Canada's healthcare way of life. Right now, Saskatchewan is facing hospital closures, not enough beds, and towns forced to offer incentives to doctors and nurses so that their hospitals can just stay open. New doctors over the next 10 years, and add 6,000 new training spaces for nurses over the next 6 years. And for senior citizens, we will establish a transfer care. We establish a transfer to guarantee a basic level of home care services for all Canadians, wherever they live. Programs will be implemented to help seniors remain in their homes and to help families retrofit their homes to create residency for senior family members. You have our word now that health care will be our #1 priority for Canadians and Canadian families.
We'll now provide each of the candidates the opportunity for a 1-minute rebuttal, starting again with Mr. Gerald Foreman.
I just wanted to add some points in terms of the future of healthcare, which is so very, very important every time you reach out to the electorate in Souris Moose Mountain. I want to make sure that you understand that Mr. Harper believes that our healthcare system will continue to deteriorate unless Ottawa overhauls the Canada Health Act to allow provinces to experiment with market reforms and private healthcare options. And one thing you need to ask very carefully of the incumbent and the party that he represents is, what does that phrase, healthcare delivery options, mean? It's one that needs to be explored quickly and in depth. And another question you need to ask of the incumbent and his party. Would Mr. Harper reject the report of the Fraser Institute that encourages Mr. Harper not to enforce the Canadian Health Act? In short, do you trust the Harper government to renegotiate the Kelowna Accord in 2014, given the track record of his view of Canadian health?
I'll say it again that every party will get up here and try to bribe you with your own money. A good example of that is what was announced today. There was a big announcement by the provincial government that, the Conservative provincial government, that they'll spend $1.2 billion of your money on a carbon capture project for this area. It seems vaguely familiar that in 2008, again, right before the last federal election, there was a promise of $1 billion for carbon capture programs in this area. And that money was shelved. That was never brought forward. So at convenient time, the conservative governments have tried to bribe you with your own money and failed to come through. The Green Party has a policy to actually get things done and get things working in Ottawa. Please check out our platform at greenparty.ca or ask me after the debate and I'll be able to answer any questions you have.
First of all, with regard to healthcare, you have to have a strong economy to be able to pay for the health care, and that's something we're doing. Also, check our record. Our government has always supported the Canada Health Act. We've increased transfers to the provinces by 33% to a record $27 billion, and we've increased those transfers by 6% every year. We didn't take $25 billion off in the transfers to the provinces like Liberals did. With respect to the green policy, I know we made an announcement today that's good for Estevan, good for Cirrus Moose Mountain, but I have read your policy, and you intend to raise money by adopting a carbon pricing system and having pollution charges, and believe this or not, legalizing marijuana and taxing. I'm saying that's not the way to raise money. You want to be more practical. The carbon capture and sequestration that we're doing here in Estevan is good for the economy, it's good for Saskatchewan, and it's good for the environment.
Let me say something about the economic recession of 2008. It happened during an election. Does everyone remember that? When there's asking Stephen Harper over and over again about the economic recession and how he kept saying we aren't in one, and how the economic recovery plan was forced upon him by the opposition parties. And as far as fiscal management goes, $4 billion in corporate tax cuts, $2 billion in subsidies for oil companies, $2 billion for prisons, $30 billion for jets, and it keeps going up apparently. $2 billion on the HST in payments to Quebec, $2 billion spent on the G8 and G20 summit, 800 of which was for security. At the Obama inauguration, they had $200 million for security. We used 4 times that with the G8, G20. Is that fiscal management? NDP government means fiscal management.